Hello everyone, welcome to my banner review for Zofia's Call, including also Valbar. Now, as per usual, I'll go from worst to best, but before I start, I do want to mention, expect the next videos to be a bit quicker to come out than this one. Every time I have a new Heroes banner that is not a seasonal banner, I basically have to do the work of a banner review as well as this GHB update to some extent, because 3 to 4 star unit do not have their actual stat page, so I have to create it. So banner reviews are always going to be a bit slower as a result. Not to mention this week is very taxing on me. To put it simply, I got 12 hours of welding and 12 hours of manual machining this week. I'm mostly through it right now. I still have manual machining tomorrow, of course. But yeah, I should be able to press on this Sunday and probably finish working on the remaining videos. Again, sorry for the delay, but I'm basically like pumping energy out of nothing at this point. Anyway, let's get started. Starting with Python, what a surprise. Oh, and also Valbar is at the end, of course. He's not the best unit of the bunch, it's just that the 3 to 4 star unit I feel should always be separated from the units of the banner since they're easily obtainable, so it's from a different point of view. Now, Python is Father Master. That's the best way I can describe him. His stat line is far from stellar. The best part he has is really a above average def stat, I suppose, for ranged units. But he's also green, he's a cav, so therefore he has like no options. So yeah, don't expect me to actually cover a set for him. He's obviously meant to be a demote, which is fantastic. Steady Blow is actually luck to 5-star exclusive. Beat-Home Breaker is luck to GHB Tempest Trial units, aka female Robin. And Short Bow is just not in the pool, so, well, it's in the pool, but it's Sue that has it, which, 5-star exclusive. So, yeah, that's actually quite a bit of fodder added to the pool, and in Steady Blow's case, fairly decent. I do wish Sturdy Blow was added as well from Valbar, but unfortunately we have to get an underwhelming fodder unit for the 3 to 4 star unit. Kind of a shame considering last month we got Year Stance of all thing. But oh well, it is what it is. But to go back to Python, as far as comparison goes, there's Walt. Also Sue. Sue has the same attack but more speed. Also I think more health, but at the cost of death and of some death, but also has more res than Python. Python is not meant to be good, which is kind of a shame. After checking back his growth though, his stat line actually makes sense. I thought it was the type of unit that had a lot of attack but no speed, but that is not the case actually. He has more speed growth than attack, though in Gaiden it was the other way around. I think he had like 40% strength growth with 20% speed. But then in Echoes it went into 40%, 55% or something like this. Yeah, it's weird. Still, Walt basically does everything he can do and more, and has a better offense for it, and that's if I'm, you know, keeping myself in the green pool, because if we go into colorless, we have Brave Lyn, who has the same HP, more attack, same speed, less death, but it doesn't really matter because Seki's Blessing outside of dragons, and more res. With a Prev that can give 4 across the board if you want it. Or Brave Bow, because, you know, colorless is actually quite good with this. And a lot of people already have Brave Lyn, if not like 80% of the people playing this game. And even if you don't have Bravelyn, there are infantry archers that are quite good, especially nowadays with Norn, who demoted the very last month, who basically, I believe, beats Python in everything but maybe attack. No, actually, I think they are equal in attack. And equal in def. Or something like this. And Norn is an infantry unit. The only thing Python really has over her is extra movement. But the fact of the matter is, Norn is colorless. Norn is a 4-star unit, just like he's going to be most likely. Still, while I do say this, Norn just overall has more options. Shortbow is actually quite good on Norn. Norn can also be comboed into Infantry Breath, Infantry Hexblade, Special Spiral, which is another thing Python can't run. The list goes on. There are so many skills that can't be used by Python. Mirror Impact, Sturdy Impact, that's also skills that Python can't use. And the few skills that Python can use that not all other movement can use, lull skills, Norn can also use those. And same thing with ruse skills. Really, there's no reason to build a Python over a Norn unless you like the character, which is fine. Obviously, if you have a favorite, go for it. I like Enos, and that's why I built him, and you've all seen how he ended up. Sometimes a character gets a niche down the line that is not very apparent at the start. Though typically this is reserved to pref units. Like, for example, Guntra was bad on release because getting good debuffs on the enemy was actually quite difficult, and now debuff are they are actually quite easy to get to. And Guntra can make full use of it, and her stat line is actually quite decent and holding quite well. So, hey, it's actually quite good now. Same thing with Enos's bow to some extent, because that's a niche that only he has, for at least for now. Though I do wish the refine was better, like just giving... Even if the refine just gave a bond, like attack def bond, I'd be happy. Instead we have an effect that's only working on initiation. Why bother, you know? Anyway, I'm getting a bit off track, so let's get back to it. So overall, Python is pretty much the worst green bow cav, and that's without considering infantry colorless archers or even bow, infantry bow cav units. He's honestly not quite a unit I would consider building, but if you want to build him, it's very easy. Build him like any other bow cav you would. It's just kinda how it is. Sorry. There's nothing really amazing about it. This stat line would work really well if you could use Mirror Impact, but we all know how that goes. Oh well. It is what it is. Moving on to Forsyth. Yes, I do think Forsyth is the second worst unit of this banner, because he's actually quite awkward to use. Now, before we even talk about his kit, I do want to point out that his speed makes no sense. Before this banner, I actually checked most units and their growth rates to see how consistent they are, and believe it or not, most of them are fairly accurate. As a matter of fact, Forsyth's high res makes sense because he actually has quite a high res growth for Echo standards of 30%. It's actually higher than most of the cast from my memory alone, which is not bad. Where it doesn't make sense is his speed. But yeah, also Silk. A lot of people have been like, man, she has way too much def, it makes no sense. Ironically enough, outside of HP and luck, def is her highest growth. By the way, she has a lesser res growth than Forsyth, so it makes sense that she has less res than Forsyth. Although the reason why she still has 31 res is probably because of the fact she has a base 11 res. Her 1 defense at base is not great, but the fact that she has a 40% def growth is, you know, considering 40% seems to be the average, or no, the above average growth for a unit in general, it's actually quite high. So it made sense for her, and Katria, well, Katria is Katria. She shouldn't even be on this banner with a sword, because Falcon Knight can't even use swords, but whatever. And I have problems with Katria in general being on the banner, but that's something I'll talk about when we get to her. Forsyth, however, makes no sense. Here's his growth rates and his max stats. Do you see that how speed is his second highest possible stat? Do you see how his speed is equal to his attack growth? Do you see how he has less def growth than his actual speed growth? Oh, and if you're curious about his base stat, I think he has like 8 or 11 base speed, which is actually quite high. I don't understand this. It doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna be completely honest here and say that he has been completely screwed just for the sake of being screwed. You wanna know what his stat line is? It's literally Surtur for most of it. There's just like 1 or 2 points removed here and there or moved around. But his speed should be good. Even as a knight, he should have about the same def growth as his speed growth. Well, maybe not so, but even then he should have like at least 30 speed. Oh well, this is the thing that makes him very awkward, because as a result you have to rely on quick repose, bullfighter, and such skills to even function. Or special fighter quick repose, which is not great, though Soul Lance actually makes it somewhat work. It's just that the second that you're stuck fighting a green unit, you're basically dead on arrival, so Joint on def is also stupid. It should be joint fortify def, but I guess IS could not, you know, double check. You know, it never was own defense, but oh well. Soul Lance is a decent weapon. It's the type of weapon that really relies on having a speed stat to really take full advantage of it. And like, I would understand if the drawback was the fact that he had low speed, if the weapon itself was able to carry him. You know, for example, instead of having res plus 3, giving cooldown minus 1, allowing you to run special fighter bonfire. So, you know, being able to just instant proc bonfire to a point where, you know, you can at least defend yourself with special fighter to some extent. But it is not the case, and that is a problem because it makes him fairly awkward. Because special fighter relies on having a speed stat, and he literally has the lowest speed of any lance armor, even lower than Picnic Lucas. Yes, Lucas has more speed than this dude, despite the fact that this dude has actually quite a good speed growth. Tied for highest, in fact. Yeah, I think you can understand my problem with this, yeah? Honestly, his stat line should be very close to what Eliwood has with these types of growths, except with like less HP to make up for the def and res. But this is what we have. Great. Speaking of Eliwood, he's going to come out twice in the comparison because he's actually a free unit you can plus 10. He is expensive, mind you, but he is quite good. So, here's the thing, yeah? Lance armored units that I could compare with Forsyth with close stats, there are so many of them. As a matter of fact, I could literally compare like 8 units to him as far as stats are concerned. This is how little diversity armored units have. All of them has about the same amount of speed. All of them have more or less 5 attack. All of them have about the same def. All of them has about the same HP. As a matter of fact, I think it's like 45 to 50 HP for the entire bunch, except for like one unit. No, it's 47 to 51, and then there's like 2 units that are at 45. Great. And then there's the res. Okay. I guess it's a bit higher than average. Ooh, very unique. Yeah, Brave Vector is here just to say I have a comparison more than anything. Gonna be honest here. Brave Vector is not great, but I do think he's a bit better than Forsyth. At the end of the day, Quick Riposte is already in his weapon and it works up to 50% health. And Bullfighter can also work as the B skill, so he can actually, work fairly well in that regard. Or you can just run Special Fighter and working up to 50%. And it has cooldown -1, so you can just instant proc Bonfire, which is really good. It gives you option. Cooldown -1 with Special Fighter gives you so many ways to work. You can run Aether, for example, and proc Aether like every fight. Especially if you have enough speed for it, which Hector can have more than Forsyth, let's just put it that way. And then there's Eliwood. I'm gonna be honest here, and this might be a hot take to like 2 people, but I do think Eliwood is the best lance unit, or rather the best lance armored unit of this game. His speed is just at the right number, to the point where he doesn't even need like a bond to really hit 47 speed. If you have a speed refined lance, you typically just have enough speed already to double just about most things, which actually gives you freedom to initiate, take hits, whichever, it works. And that's actually a freedom that E alone has outside of Christmas Robin, which is not exactly a very available unit now, is it? It's also kind of funny that outside of Eliwood and Christmas Robin, there's really not any decent speed unit. I think the 3rd highest speed is 28 with Arden. It's not good, dude. It really is not. Eliwood has good def and good res. A good speed stat, and his attack stat is no slouch either. Remember, because he's a neutral unit always, he gets 1 HP, 1 attack, and 1 speed due to the first merge. So in reality, his offense is 39-33, which is insanely good. On higher merges, he can easily hit 47 speed with just a speed buff as a result, which is insane. I could probably do a showcase of my own Eliwood, but I doubt many people are really interested in that. Still, the idea is you can, despite him not having a pref, you can just run Slaying Lance just fine, and the refine itself is all he really needs. Having more health, being tankier, more defense, more res, or more speed, there's a lot to like about Eliwood. And that's what makes him so good. The problem is, Forsyth doesn't have this kind of niche. He has a weapon that's very awkward, because if you run Special Fighter, Quick Riposte, well, if you want damage, for example, you are going to go Ignis and hope to fuck that you get to your 2nd hit, and by this I mean no follow-up, no Sturdy Blow, no base mur, no... You get the idea. There's a lot of things that can stop you from getting a follow-up and absolutely ruin you. Rid is also one of those units. And ironically enough, despite you thinking you might be fine against Rid might be able to do quite a bit of damage still, because he actually has 65 attack unbuffed at +10. It's kinda hard to get out of it unscathed. Still, it's kind of possible for Force Life on higher merges, but I think you get the idea of what I'm trying to get at. If you can't get to that second hit, you don't kill. If you don't kill, well, you're not really getting you're not really getting all that far, are you? And because of his speed being this atrocious, you will never win the speed check. So that's very awkward for him. So as a result, because he doesn't have cooldown -1 in his weapon, the only instant proc he can have is like Ruptured Sky, Moonbow, Glimmer. Glimmer can kinda work, as can Moonbow, and Ruptured Sky also against, you know, dragons and beasts. But even then, you'll be missing kills left and right. Sure, you'll be able to heal yourself back up to, you know, fight more. But at the end of the day, if your team is getting overwhelmed because your tank can't kill, you're not getting anywhere. Hell, you might actually get stuck in a corner as a result. A tank that can kill does a lot more. Not to mention, even though the weapon heals, you might be kicked out to below 70% HP, and then you are truly useless. You have to realize this. He's a very cumbersome unit, and then if you switch his weapon to, say, a Slaying Lance to run DC, then what are you doing with this guy? Just use Hector instead. Hector literally has something that gives him 4 attack because of DC and 4 def on defense, which essentially means he has more attack, more defense, more HP, more speed, and the only thing he has a bit less of is res. Do you see where I'm going with this? Overall, and not to mention his lance already has quick repose, which, you know, unlike a certain person, he can actually have a seal slot. Forsyth needs to have special fighter and then quick repose as the seal to function, whereas Hector can just have quick repose in the weapon, a better one on top of it, with special fighter, which also just so happens to open up a seal slot. For example, attack res bond, pushing the gap in attack by 6, while also having 4 more defense and tying him in res, though obviously Forsyth's lance pushes the res up by 3, so he's still up by 3 in res. That's not much though. You see the idea and how much of an issue it is for Forsyth to function. Again, yes, you heal yourself, but if all you do is healing yourself and missing all your kills, it doesn't do much for you. So, again, you'd be switching the lance to slaying, and then you're just a worse Hector. And Eliwood, don't even get me started. He absolutely destroys him. Even in terms of sustain, you have to realize Eliwood will double even if the enemy has no follow-up in a lot of cases. Hell, if you think you have a problem, you can still run attack speed bond with swap on the armored unit to swap the unit in front of the enemy while still having the armored unit next to him. It works. And then you end up with 52 speed or 53 speed, which is really good. That's the thing. It's really hard to miss doubles with Eliwood, and then Special Fighter with Aether and Slaying Lance allows you to proc Aether every fight. So it actually provides you sustain just like Forsyth, while also preventing doubles, while having a bulk that is not that far off from Forsyth in some ways. Yes, the numbers shows that, you know, you lose 10 def, you lose 4 res or 7 res due to the weapon. But honestly, on high merges, it don't matter. It really doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, Forsyth ends up with like 60 def and res, which is kinda overkill. Eliwood, for the most part, can still hit something like 40 def and res, which is plenty. And that's like without like this is just plus 10 flowers, def and res tactic. You're at 40 in def and res. You can actually get further than this quite easily. And again, this is the strength that makes Hollywood such a good unit, shutting down the enemy while having so much attack, while proccing Aether, and not being hindered by skills that, you know, screws over Quick Riposte, and he works great even at 50% HP because of this. Under 50% HP you lose a special fighter, which is kind of a big problem, but it's really hard for him to get that much below it. Believe me, he is a heavy-duty tank in a weird way. He functions really good with Aether. So, it's really hard for me to say Forsyth would be worth building over L.A. Hollywood, and again, L.A. Hollywood is free, all it takes is Grails. While Forsyth, on the other hand, would cost on average 2.2k orbs. 2 plus 10. It's not great, and even on a single copy, well, single copy Hollywood is pretty cheap, though you'll probably want the second one for the extra attack and speed point from the first merge. And even then, he's still better than Forsyth. That's kind of just how it is. But for these who are masochistic enough to still use him, these are the sets you can use. Again, not really ideal, you'll miss a lot of kills. You can run Death Ploy if you wish to ensure a bit more kills, or just run Attack Ploy. Either way, it's fine. And on the other side is a speedier version. Speed Ploy and Speed Res bond together, pushes your speed to 46. It's shaky, but it works. Though while I say it works, it doesn't work on low merges. This is more of an high merges set. It's rare I showcase these types of sets, but I figured I might as well, because otherwise it's kind of boring. Just, well, you basically put Special Fighter and slap Quick Riposte and run a ploy. Ooh, epic, that's so new. You know. But then again, armored units and generals are very boring. Next up is Katria. Yes, Katria. I do not consider her to be the best unit of the banner despite this weapon. The weapon deals true damage, though the true damage part is really irrelevant unless you're dealing with a blue unit. To put it as simple as that. It's kinda just how it is. Also, if you're curious, the true damage is calculated without the combat triangle in mind. Kind of like an AoE. For example, if you have 60 attack fighting a 50 def unit, which you do 0 damage against normally, and then with the plus 5 damage from 60 minus 50, you do 3, you do 5 because it's true damage. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you have 50 attack and the enemy has 50 def, you gain nothing. That's just how it is. So true damage don't matter at that point. Attack speed bond is okay, at least it's on a flyer. Flyers are quite good at using bonds while being aggressive, which at least is there. Harsh Command is finally in the pool, I guess, and more speed tactic. Astro Blade is a fairly competent weapon, but here's my issue with it. First off, they can't use it. None of the Winged Sisters can actually use it because they are locked to lances until they overclass, and then they can use magic. Not swords, magic. So it makes no sense for her to have this blade. I was expecting this to be a prep for Grey, for God's sake. And the Soul Lance I actually also designed as a refined theory crafting for Clive. Kinda weird that they're now both on this banner and one of them makes no sense to be there. Now, while I do say this, the other issue I have is why Katria? Base Katria is fine, Spring Katria is quite good. Why is she getting a third good alt? Pala is struggling so much to have even a good alt. Hesta's a really good alt. Hesta's a pretty pitiful base version because of a ruby weapon, which you need to have a B slot to even circumvent. You know, when you have to fight your weapon to the point you have to sacrifice a skill slot for? Not great already, is it? And then the spring version has a armor killer dagger that's actually inerritable. So, great. Doesn't really have a whole lot to her name, but whatever. If this had been Pala, I would be a lot more forgiving, because a Pala alt that would be good would be great, not to mention if it's a sword, potentially base Pala, and I guess this might be a bit of wishful thinking, base Pala could potentially get it. The difference between 38-36 offensively to 31-31 is quite there, so it's kind of a similar situation that happened with Ares and Eldigan, where Ares just was a better user of it, but might as well give it to the base version so he has actually some doi to be relevant. It's the same kind of logic, you know? Pala would be worse, like base Pala would be a worse user of it, but she would at least have a weapon that functions. But Katria's the one to get it, so it's kind of just there, I guess. To me, it's just a shame and a missed opportunity, because they could have actually fixed Pala in the process while also providing the first alt that's actually considered good of her. But, what do I know, yeah? I would have still take Est over Katria. Honestly, in Echoes, I don't think Katria was really that great of a character. I disliked most of her interactions, but that's just me. Anyway, talking about the unit itself now. In comparison, she is not beaten in terms of stats. She has a very similar stat line to New Year Guntra. New Year Guntra has, I believe, only 2 more res. However, New Year Guntra also uses Heart's Blade and Ikami as our main weapons, which are something that Katria can use, but considering it relies on bulk a bit more, well, I'm gonna be honest here and say that Guntra uses it a bit better. Still, while I do say this, she does have 4 more attacks, so I guess it comes down to preference, really. However, as far as, you know, just an offensive stat line is concerned, she's quite good. Her offense is actually quite good, though I feel like they could even, like, remove a bit of speed there. It's kind of useless. While I do say this, comparing this to Ryoma, Supreme Samurai my ass. I have no reason to really use Ryoma over her. Like, Ryoma has a bad pref. That's already a bad start, yeah. His stat line is too focused on speed, especially for flyers who have no difficulty getting the combo pieces to have enough speed. Gold Flyers is chief among them. Bulk-wise, he is slightly inferior to Katria as well. It's not great, is it? As far as stats are concerned, Katria crushes him, and by the way, Ryoma was the closest one I could make in terms of stats to Katria. Let that sink in. Katria is just so far above in terms of stats, and on top of that, she has a pref that's actually decent. That said, I do think I would take Elincia over her, because at the end of the day, hitting 4 times for like 60 or I believe even up to 70 attack versus hitting 71 attack and therefore potentially like 80 or 90 attack compared to the enemy twice. Elincia is a bit better because typically she might even kill with the first 2 hits, preventing herself from taking a hit. Yes, Desperation is very much a thing, but if you have to waste your B slot for Desperation, while Elincia can use, you know, aerobatics, flyer formation, then I don't see why I would be using Katria over Elincia. Elincia just has more freedom, more flexibility as far as her kit is concerned. Still, while I do say this, I do think Katria is a fairly solid addition, especially in Gold Emblem and in own/fortified teams. That said, She's really only good in the end of the player. In the AI's hand, she won't be nearly as potent, because you can't really make them work too well with, you know, goads and so on and so forth. Do you know that Katria and, I suppose to some extent, Wings of Fate, Inoka is actually quite good to combo with her, providing up to 7 attack with just goad in their weapon. And in Camilla's case, 7 speed instead of 4. As far as builds are concerned, they are quite boring, I'm afraid, but there's not much to it. Mirror Impact for 44 res, 41 def, Mystic Boost to be able to continue fighting multiple times, 67 attack with Gale Force, did not go attack plus, did not go Death Blow 4, because otherwise you will typically be doing too much damage. Even now you might be doing too much damage and might want to, you know, rein back on buffs sometimes to actually be able to proc Gale Force. It's a bit awkward, but it's kinda just how it is. As far as Gale Force is concerned, I guess Legendary Ryoma does that a bit better because he has a bit less attack. Take that as a boon, I guess? As for the second set, it's just prioritizing damage in a goat setup, or a own 45 setup. If you're in a goat setup, just don't consider the buff and just add like 2 goats, so 8 attack and speed. Flyer formation allows you to teleport yourself next to someone, which combos into attack speed bond for 7 attack and speed. Combo this into, say, 2 goats, and that's 55 speed, which is still too much. But, oh well, and nothing you can really do about it. Still, I would still recommend you to use attack speed bond because it allows you to negate attack debuffs and speed debuffs, which may make you more consistent at nuking. Guidance for a mixed team, and obviously if you're in a mixed team, I suppose if you're in a flyer team you can use flyer guidance. If you're in a mixed team you can use guidance with aerobatics. This is up to you. Do what you want with this information. Now, moving on to what I consider the best unit of the banner, Silk. Boy, oh boy, Silk. Being an infantry unit is already quite good, giving you access to quite a few skills, which is quite nice. Another thing is the fact that Melancholy is finally in the pool. Witchy Wand is one, if not the best inheritable staff in my opinion. It just shuts down anything like special from Special Fighter, Bolt Fighter, and so on. It is a godlike weapon. So seeing it in the pool is quite welcomed. Another thing is the fact that our stat line is quite good. 35 def and 31 res is unheard of, and there's only one other unit that did something similar, but he didn't have an attack stat, which lucked him out of like one set. But, you know, as far as comparison is concerned, you were expecting that one, weren't you? I mean, there's no one else to compare a tanky unit to as far as staffs are concerned. I do think Mercedes is a bit better as far as being able to be on the offense and on the defense. Still, while I do say this, as far as tanking is concerned and just cheerleading in general, I don't think there's a single unit better than her. Now, what makes her so good is the extra 12 attack over Azama, the fact that she has 3 more def and still 6 more res, the fact that she has less speed don't matter, typically because she is so bulky anyway that she soaks up so much damage that she can actually sustain herself with just Absorb. And if she doesn't, you can actually still heal yourself with Martyr back in quick riposte range, though this will rarely be needed. I mean, I don't think I have much to say else about this comparison. Silk is just better in general. Now, for builds, this is simple. The set on the left is an absorb set, pushing your attack to 58, so you can heal more. 45 def and 46 res. You get the idea. With attack blow, you're pushing yourself to 50 defense and 51 res. So you become very hard to kill or even do damage against. And then with absorb, you can just heal yourself back up from any damage you sustain. You get hit, you heal yourself. You get hit, you heal yourself. Miracle is a safety. It's more like safety line in case, you know, you get close of dying for some reason. Otherwise, you can just use a double balm. She even come with one, which I believe gives attack and death. Probably the least relevant balm, but it is what it is. Windfire Balm is still the best balm, considering speed is so hard to get as a buff. Now, obviously after this, there's the pain set, which is obviously meant to just be tanky. Obviously at that point, I don't think I have to explain what it does, but to put it simply, it's 61 def and res, which is quite good, on top of 51 attack to inflict damage to the enemy without killing them. This can be good to just, you know, feeding kills to your bonus unit, though you'll typically want color as dual infantry over the A skill. Or there's a way to heal yourself if needed. Moving on to the last one, which is more of a utility set for Arena. Alright. This is hefty, because let me put it this way. Joyous Lantern buffs your highest attack unit by 5 attack and 5 def and 5 res. I'm stupid. Which is typically your bonus unit in Arena, because your bonus unit gets a 4 extra attack. So being the highest attack becomes a lot easier as a result. Just, if you're using Rid, don't use her with a wind team. Probably would help, because Rid is going to take all the buffs. Windfire Balm provides the 6 attack and speed buffs. And the fact that she's so tanky allows her to just take the hit if needed to charge it up, which is quite helpful, without killing the enemy because her speed is quite bad. Also, in this team comp, she would not receive buffs, but she would still have 39 def and res with 48 HP. It's quite hard to die even then. And on top of that, she has attack ploy. Now, Sabotage Def is more for the bonus unit, because, you know, obviously the ideal one would be to run Sabotage Attack with Def Ploy or Res Ploy depending on the situation for the Seal, and Speed Ploy as the C skill. But just gauge with what you have, essentially, is the best way that I can really describe this. Restore is there to nullify debuffs, panic, gravity, and so on and so forth, which gives you more options in general. So, yeah, 6 attack, 6 speed, 5 def, 5 res, debuffs, 5 attack, 5 speed, and 7 defense, depending on the conditions being fulfilled or not. All in one unit. Oh, also removes any kind of debuff like gravity, like which you want, which is going to be more common. Heals also, but doesn't heal too much. Restore actually has a penalty as far as healing goes, which is actually helpful, because if you don't full heal your unit, you can heal it once, then heal it again the following turn, and you know, enjoy Windfire Balm. Obviously, if you don't have Windfire Balm, you should run Speed Tactic and whatever tactic that you want for the seal slot. Actually, that's stupid. Speed Tactic and Attack Tactic, obviously, to make up for it. But it really comes down to how you feel. So, yeah, in general, she just has a whole lot of utility, can work as a fighter as well, and just in general, has all the stats in the right places. On top of being infantry, so how about infantry breath? I don't think she can use Hexblade, but that would be kind of funny if she could. But, you know. Just overall a very solid unit. Now I'll move on to Valbar. Yeah, with a kit like that, you're probably surprised that this thing was not released 4 years ago when the game was not even out. Because holy hell, this is not great. HP attack 2 is the skill that's being added. That's good for like all of one unit, that being Varian. It's not good, and I say Varian like very shakily, because obviously colorless dual infantry is what you'll be running on him typically for, you know, cheerleading. So that's awkward. It's not good on the Versa because she comes with HP speed 2, so you can just run HP attack 2 as the seal instead, if that's what you're going for. It's very awkward, and his stat line is nothing exactly new? Let me explain. Again, LA Hollywood is obviously better than him. We've already been over this. But the other unit I wanted to show, and apparently I cut by accident a part of Valbar's stat line. Well, you still see the numbers, sorry about that though. But the point I'm trying to get at is the fact that compare Valbar to Gwen. You'll get the same def, same HP, 2 less res, 1 more speed, and 5 more attack. If you already plus 10'd a Gwendolyn, there is no point, no value in building a Valbar. Because everything Valbar might be able to do, your plus 10 Gwen might be able to do as well. So at that point, Valbar feels a bit obsolete. Obviously, they had to just take a stat line we already had and make a 3 to 4 star unit out of it with slightly better stats, I suppose. He still functions, and he's better than Gwen. It's just that if you have a plus 10 Gwen, well, why dish 220 feathers in this? Still, he scores well in Arena, so I guess there's that as a plus. That's like the main thing I can really say. Still, his stat line is actually not bad for Special Fighter, since with Speed Plus he hits 29, with a Speed Weapon he hits 32. What can I say? Though, again, Hollywood does that better. So yeah. As far as build is concerned, there's really only one. With this set, on enemy phase, which is typically going to be the case because of the Bond skill and Berkut's Lance, I did not put Barrier Lance because Conrad might actually be decent. His stat line is decent, is all I'll say until I actually like review him. But I can see a lot of things working with him. Still, with that said, let's talk about the unit itself. This set pushes his HP to 58, 59 attack, 47 speed, which obviously is the magic number as per usual, 48 def, and 48 res, 7 res from Berkut's Lance and 5 res from Speed Res Bond. 48 defensively is quite good, 47 speed allows you to double quite often, and attack smoke allows you to tank a bit easier. So it's not bad, actually. It just, like I said, Gwen can more or less do this as well. As far as bulk is concerned, I believe Gwen can basically hit 48-50 instead. 1 less speed, and like 54 attack instead. The rest is basically the same. They both have a super boon in speed, they're just like 1 point off from one another. Again, like the fact that she's at 46 speed don't matter. Dragon Flowers are a thing, and it pushes her speed to 47. So again, Valbar is a good unit if you don't have a Gwen already invested in. Because Gwen can just outdo Valbar completely. So, Yeah, there's not much else to say about this. Armored units don't have a whole lot to them in general. So, let's move on now. In conclusion, this banner is okay. I do think Python and Forsyth are disappointing, but then again it makes sense that Forsyth is the green unit of the banner. Not Forsyth, but rather Python. We have passed already through most mages of Echoes. There are, I think, there's Nui Baba and Jeddah, which would have been a better GHB than Conrad, by the way, just saying. Because red mages have very much quite a bit of room to be compared to, or be decent in general. Especially since Jeddah could be armored, but Nui Baba would absolutely be infantry. And infantry red mages, quite good. Quite good. They have barely any competition, and this is what makes it so good. But instead we got Conrad, which is a blue Cav. Yeah. Still, Conrad's stat line seems to be decent. I still have to check the builds that I can pull off with him, but that's going to be for tomorrow or Sunday, since Saturday I stream, and typically I'm too tired to work on anything after the stream. Plus, I'm still sick. I hate this. I really hate this, but it is what it is. But yeah, as a result, since there's no more mage left that can really fit the green slot, and there's no axes in that game, by the way, in case you forgot or didn't know, you're kind of stuck in this odd situation where the only units that can really fit green are bow units. So, isn't there another bow unit that's left in Echoes that's not in yet? Because if there is, expect that one to be green as well. Sorry, but it's kind of hard to put a unit there. And Katria is the one with Astro Blade, because think about it. Jesse? Or, Dean? Well, actually, Dean could have worked with it. I could see just a Dean with high attack and lower speed, and working quite well with Astro Blade. Plus, he actually has a cool design, let's be honest. Well, it is what it is. Soulkill's actually quite good. I'm surprised it took this long for them to decide to make a, like, overly tanky healer again. But, I mean, here it is. Katria is deplorable. I really wish Pala was taking that spot. Plus, Echo's Pala's design is just, in general, looking really pretty. Shame. This artist is actually quite good, though. Maybe he'll do Echo's Pala at one point. Probably not. Katria gets this special bonus for being loved by Japan, because for some reason Japan really likes characters that are getting cucked. I don't understand this culture. I really don't. Oh well. With that said, I think I've said just about all I had to say about this. Hopefully this was informative and you've learned a thing or two about this. As per usual, I'll be seeing you later or on Discord. Have a nice one, everyone.